I was bullied and partially deaf at 4 years old, and until today, I had let that pain rule my life, but not anymore. Right here on this show, I take back my power and I show you how you can do that too.
Do you want to know everything? What your heart won't say, but your soul can sing. From love to loss and the space between, she's got the light to lift the unseen. Hope, healing, and transformation. Do you want to know everything? Do you want to know everything?
Welcome to Hope, Healing, and Transformation. My name is Lisa Williams, and have you ever heard the saying, you're not broken? Well, here it is. You are not broken. And according to my next guest, you are just stuck in a group chat with your triggers. And I say that with love because this show, I actually shared something really personal. I recently cleared a memory from when I was just 4 years old, a time that I was bullied, misunderstood, navigating the world, partially deaf. That moment really shaped how I saw myself for years. And here's the truth. Healing is not about erasing our past. It's about reclaiming our power from it. So let's talk about how you can begin to clear those hidden echoes too, and finally step into a pathway that's actually truly yours. So let's welcome my guests, Iris Libby and Christy Godwin, talking about their best-selling book, Awakening Your Path. So I am excited to chat with you guys. I met you both. How long ago was it? 2021?
About that, yes.
20 for me and 21 for Christy.
Now, you both did the Certified Spiritual Advisor. Go ahead, Iris. What was that look?
I was going to say you had met Christy before me, so it might have been even 2019.
Right.
But we met each other in 2021 in your class.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time you guys had met. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
And the journey to getting this book, The Awakening Your Path, has been a transformation. I got to say, you two were probably the least two people I expected to connect. I just have to say that.
Why is that, Lisa?
I have no idea. I just never expected this relationship. And now I've spent quality time with you. I've spent personal time with you. We went to the Omaha Zoo. I've stayed at your house, Christy. Yes, and I couldn't see two better people being connected. It's interesting. But Iris, you are an astrologer. And yes. Christy, you are a life coach and you are a psychic medium. And obviously, Iris, you're a psychic medium. What was the journey of you two coming together for this book? Christy, I'm going to ask you first.
You know, it was such a pivotal path. I want to go back to the first time, just a second, when Iris and I met. We were walking, we had come to see you in person, taking a class, walking through Lilydale, and Iris stumbles, and I go to grab her, and she looks at me, and she said, "We're going to write a book together." Are we now? I didn't say anything, but now I didn't just met her. So I wasn't quite sure we were going to be doing anything together, but okay. Now, fast forward, we became friends, started hanging out. We were we were working together. We knew by this point we were going to develop something that was going to change the way people processed information. And it happened over a locked door. Iris, I went to open a door where we were staying. I couldn't open the door, and it was locked. Now, the person we were staying at their house, they didn't lock their doors. And so I said, "Why is this door locked?" And Iris said, "I did that." "Why? It's not your door." And so now, mind you, I have traveled with Iris. I love that about her. She is like the little mama that has to make sure everyone's taken care of and everyone is safe. So I knew that was how she operated. And it bothered me all day that I was just angry over this silly locked door. And for anyone who knows me, it takes a lot to make me angry. And it is certainly not going to be a silly locked door.
Right.
So that was the beginning of it, is why was Christy angry over this locked door? And we started breaking it down where that original trigger came from, because we knew it wasn't about this door. That wasn't something that was going to make me angry. So that was the beginning of it. developing the questions over why was Christy angry over this silly locked door.
Now, I love this. Now, Iris, you must have a story on this. What was your take on that whole situation where you saw, oh my God, we're going to write a book together, and to the locked door moment? Give me your perspective.
Well, I want to go back a little bit and say the reason why we connect so well is our Mercuries are conjunct. They're 2 degrees apart. And so from a communication standpoint, we tend to communicate really well.
Right.
So with the locked door, so we were trying to come up with some sort of system. And that weekend we were working on like, what is our book going to be about? Because we had decided we were going to do something. And like Christy said, she's traveled with me before. And to me, her getting upset about me locking a door was funny. So I thought the whole thing was hysterical that, she was so upset that I had locked this door and kept laughing. But then when we broke it down, now I call Christy, she is a spirit machine. Like the first time I met her, I think in a half hour, she brought in 7 or 9 spirits in one conversation.
Wow.
And when we started working on this, I turned to Christy and I said, well, go to the bathroom then. And she looked at me and said, what? And I said, you just said you hadn't been to the bathroom all day. She said, no, I didn't.
I didn't.
And I said, yes, you did. And then she said, Iris, I didn't. And I'm like, who's here? And it turned out that my Aunt Ida had come in and she was giving us messages about the book, but actually she was channeling a collective. She was trying to get my attention all morning, but I was busy doing TikToks and ignoring her. So anyway, she was giving us this message to keep it simple. Keep our process simple, and that we were on the right track. So it was really interesting.
So I channeled in Ida for quite some time that day. That's how that came about.
Yes.
Right. I love that. And I think when you find someone that you work with well, like you both know Karen Romine. I work so well with her. We kind of had these moments where we channel and then we go, oh my God, I got this. And so I know what it's like to work with somebody, but this has taken a step in a really big direction. You're very different personalities that have come in to write a book together. That process must have been really interesting. And we talk about, it's called The Process. And when we talk about awakening your path, I'm just going to share this. This is really about, for everyone listening, this book is really about identifying your triggers, recognizing why they are coming out and working through it. And they are going to take me through the process. So I actually texted them earlier. I said, you're going to take me through the process. So that's something to wait for. We're going to do that in a little while. But writing the book together must have triggered you both at some point, and your own stuff came out. What was that process like? Iris, I'm going to talk to you first. What was that process like for you?
Well, it's interesting because we came up with the process first, and then we worked on refining the process, and we worked very well together on that. And then I went to Burning Man and broke my knee and split my tibial plateau after we had laid this whole thing out, and we had laid out the chapters and we were ready to write it.
Right.
So that it put us back big time because I'm like now laid up for 3 or 4 months and not able to work. But really, we didn't start to get triggered until the book got published. Wouldn't you say? I think that's when it started.
Yeah. Poor Iris always say, if you want to be triggered, write a book on triggers.
I'm sure.
So there wasn't really the whole time, we pretty much agreed on everything, the way we did everything until the day the book got published. There was a snafu that happened that brought up a trigger for Christy that was so deep and so buried that it was kind of shocking. It really was.
Christy, what was that for you, if you don't mind sharing?
What was the trigger, or what was the
emotion? What brought you to that point? I mean, how was it for you to actually then work through this?
It was actually in the moment, it was actually beautiful in the end, how quickly I was able, and you can ask Iris, within probably 5 minutes, I was like, oh, okay. And when I released it, I was truly over it. And we moved on and celebrated that night. In the moment, I was, just taken back. And Iris and I are going back and forth. Like she's saying her, I'm saying, and then it got so ridiculous. I recognized, what is going on here? And I heard in my head, you're being triggered. Oh, yeah, I absolutely am. Where is that coming from? And so then I just quickly ran the process. I got back childhood. A lot of our traumas that we think we're dealing with now are actually rooted in our childhood. And I'm not saying because you have traumas from your childhood that you had a bad childhood. It can be from other things. Even parents who try their best, we make mistakes as parents. We just do.
Yeah.
No matter how hard we try, we do.
Yeah.
And so I was able to release this trigger that happened early in childhood. And it was within 5 minutes of this huge trigger. And I felt so much lighter. Iris even kept mentioning the next day, your energy feels so much lighter.
Wow. I love this. Now you talk about energy, obviously, because we are energetic beings. And I just want to quote here. You start talking about understanding energy is crucial to comprehending both ourselves and our interactions with the world around us. Energy refers not only to physical energy, but also emotional, mental, spiritual energies. And I really love that you're bringing the energetic part into it, the energy space, because I feel that there are a lot of self-help books out there that don't address the spiritual part of us that is in the world. And energy, I encourage anybody who's listening right now to imagine between me and you and a chair, maybe, if that is just dead space. It's not. It's energy. There's energy swirling around. There's EMFs. There's natural energy of our aura. I love this. What brought you to actually incorporate the energetic space in this? Christy, I'll ask this of you.
This goes back to everything I've learned about psychic mediumship and readings and life coaching, hypnotherapy, EMT, all the modalities that I've studied over the years. Mm-hmm. And I just truly felt that you could not talk about one component of your being, whether it be an emotional energy or a mental energy, without talking about the spiritual. I feel like if we don't talk about all the energies that are at work in our bodies and our lives, that we're missing a huge component to be able to transmute and heal and move to a higher level. I talk a lot about whenever you have a decision to make and you're really at a cusp of which way do I make this decision? What do I want to happen? You want to look at all the components of the energy in that decision and take it to a higher level, because it's when you take it to a higher octave that you're going to start walking in integrity. You're going to be able to express your soul's truth on this walk on this planet instead of what society expects you to do.
Right. Now, I think you're absolutely right. Now, Iris, you actually have a very, very executive corporate background. You can explain who you've worked with and for. But in your perspective of the actual workplace, did you notice that there were lots of threads that are linking the spiritual aspect and these triggers that were happening? I think what I'm trying to ask here is that way back when you had your real corporate job, did you ever notice that these were things that were happening in that corporate world? And did you utilize your experience in that to write the book?
So I want to say that even though I had this corporate job, I was always involved with energy. I could feel things happening in my life that were energetic, that I was attracting, I was bringing in. I was working for someone at one time who was doing something that was illegal. I was not involved, and I kept telling him that he was going to get caught. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, I decided I was going to go to Greece for 2 months. And I remember I didn't tell him. I left his office and I said, I am I'm going to get my shoes fixed and then I'm going home. And I didn't say I'd see you tomorrow. And I picked up my shoes and I got on a plane for Greece for 2 months. On Monday, everybody in the office was arrested.
Oh,
And
right.
people who weren't involved were kept in jail for 3 days because they were convinced that they were involved. Now, I had nothing to do with it. And I just left for 2 months. So I always feel that spirit and energy in all my business, in my whole life, has been guiding me in what I've done. And, I started studying astrology in 1984.
Right.
And so I have always felt that there's been, that I am protected.
Right. I love this. Now, that's an incredible story. And you and I were talking where I feel like now I haven't had the process done, and you guys are going to do the process on me shortly. And I always say that I'm healed until I'm triggered. And I think that these triggers are they're important to address because it's who we are, it's our wounding, it's everything. And I loved what you wrote in the book. It says, rather than perceiving triggers as a mere inconvenience or challenges to overcome, we choose to embrace them as sacred invitations for your inner exploration. That is a little bit confronting for many people.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be because I'm just talking from my point of view. I mean, I see thousands of people in readings and they are like, they don't want to deal with it. I see them in these patterns, like I'm seeing them in their relationships and these patterns that are constantly going and going and going. And at that point, I'm like, you are the problem. You are actually the problem. And I feel like I'm utilizing my husband right now because that's what he would say. You're the problem. But that's true, because if we are not getting out of our own way, how are we expecting to attract different people, different lives, different situations? Yes. And is that what you have both found in this work? That you're the problem?
Well, yes.
Say it as it is.
I just want to say, I want us to think about triggers as more of a sacred invitation.
Right.
Your triggers don't come here to punish you. They're just here to point you towards what needs to be healed, maybe what might be unloved about you. And over time, when we begin to recognize the triggers, that they're really doorways to our liberation. Right. Because once you can start releasing that trigger and you're liberated to a higher level, you're going to start attracting different people. You're going to start attracting your things that align with your higher and greater good.
Right. Okay.
I want to also comment about that because if you look at it, we do a dance with people. And if we're doing the samba all the time and the samba's not working for us, right? Mm-hmm. You're like, well, wait, maybe I need to learn a new dance. Maybe if I work through this trigger and then you start doing the cha-cha, the other person's doing the samba, you're going to start attracting people who are doing the cha-cha with you.
Right.
Right? So by letting go or like releasing these triggers, and it's not that they're not going to come up again, but they will come up in another way. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I like that we really do is we are not getting into your deep psychological issues with this. This helps you release your trigger in real time, in the moment, in the second, so that you can see your ex at a football game or in a bar or at a party and be gracious and be in your own space and love yourself because you've let go.
Right. So I want to address this because you said something about, somebody's dancing the cha-cha, somebody else is doing the samba. And here is where my brain went, well, what if I like my husband doing the samba and I want to continue doing the samba and we're happy in this little samba dance, but my trigger, and then suddenly I'm like dancing the cha-cha, and is he going to be ready to dance the samba, the cha-cha with me? So there's almost this feeling of I feel like for some people, there's this motion of fear of change.
Yes.
And I think what I'm hearing you say is that change is important. And if we don't change, we're going to stay in the same cycles.
Yes.
And these triggers are going to keep coming up and coming up and coming up.
That's 100% true, that you have to change. And maybe you're doing the samba with some new steps in it, and your husband will learn those steps, because I find that when I change, the people around me have to adjust to that energy. We're all going back to your original question of energy. Is that energetically, they're like, oh, you're lighter. Oh, we can take this dance in a lighter way. Or, oh, you're not screaming at me anymore. Or, oh, you're not crying about this. And then all of a sudden it frees up everyone. It frees up the energy.
All right. Well, let's make it happen. Let's
do it.
So I was like, do I have triggers? We all have triggers. Now you're going to get into the deeper part of Lisa Williams. I don't know how this process works. I have read this book, and I started to read up to the actual sort of like area where we started on the case studies. And I went, I am actually going to get them to do this with me. So that's where I stopped. So I'm all yours, ladies. However you want to do this. I'm a little nervous. I got to tell you, I'm like,
we'll be gentle, Lisa. We promise we'll be gentle.
Okay.
That's all right.
Is there a trigger that you're currently dealing with right now that you'd like to talk about?
So I dealt with something very, very recently where I had to kick somebody out of my house. I don't know why it triggered, why I got myself into an emotional mess, because I had to get my husband. And it was a big emotional mess. And at the time, that's what I'm
Okay, very good. Now, I want you to take that feeling. I want you to think back to the height of that feeling where you were being very triggered. And I want you to just, first thing that comes in, what part of your body did you feel it? Where did that feeling sit in your body?
So it's interesting because as I remember being in the moment, and I was in the moment with a friend of mine, Amanda, and my body felt calm, but I had this overwhelming feeling of this. But as I sit here right now, it hits me in my chest.
Very good. Okay, I want you to drop into that feeling in your chest. What name would you put on it?
Oh gosh, that's not a name I want to give it. Hatred. All right.
Wow. So I want you to really sit with that feeling. Now, a lot of times when we're talking about these emotions, to me, hatred is a macro emotion that can fit a lot of different areas that you would have felt. So I want you to sit with that feeling of hatred for just a moment and make sure you're feeling all the components of it.
So now what I want you to do is I want you to think back to the very first time you felt that exact same emotion that you're sitting in, and tell me about that time.
Please do not anyone judge me right now. It was when I punched a boy in the nose and I broke his nose because he'd been picking on me. And my mom had said to me, if you don't start standing up for yourself, you are going to be the problem. You need to start standing up for yourself. And I remember this boy bullying me, and I punched him in the nose, and then I was in the wrong. But I had so much rage and emotion because he was attacking my character and my everything.
Now, can you remember how old you were at that time?
I was 4 years old. I was like 3 or 4 years old.
You were 3 or 4. Okay.
Yeah.
So in that moment, I want you to feel back into that moment. What need did you, what weren't you getting? What did you need that you did not get in that moment?
I wanted someone to, oh boy, it all just went, I wanted someone to stand up for me.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted someone to stand up for me. And I didn't want to fight for me. I wanted someone to stand up for me. I wanted someone to fight for me.
Okay. So now what we're going to do, Lisa, I want you to remember, I want you to think back to that moment. Put yourself in that position. Put yourself back to you're having to fight for yourself.
Can I get something?
Yes. Oh, what's she going to get?
I don't know. She's never done this before. Oh, that's Lisa.
Yes,
oh,
yes.
Love that. Okay, this is 4-year-old Lisa.
This is literally 3 or 4-year-old Lisa.
Very
Okay,
good.
I love this.
Now, what we're going to do is we're going to bring adult Lisa in to save you, because it's so important for us to realize that we can save ourselves. We have that ability. So I want you in your head to picture this sweet little Lisa. She's 3 or 4, should not have to be defending herself. She's being bullied. I want you to envision adult Lisa coming in, picking baby Lisa up, turning to that little boy and saying, never again will you be mean to her. She is under my protection. And I want you to envision holding yourself and giving yourself all that love and protection that you needed at that moment. And then that little boy can feel this power and love and protection exuding off of you. And you can just feel that protection and that love just seeping into every cell in your body. I'm going to take a deep breath and release. Now I want you to go back to present day, where the other day you're telling your friend about having to kick someone out of your house.
Mm-hmm.
Now go back to that same feeling you were having. How is your body feeling around that situation now?
It's still feeling tight.
Okay. Is it feeling less tight or the same amount?
It's a little less tight.
Very good. Now, this is absolutely perfect. What I want us to realize, we're going to do this again, but what I'm saying is for everyone watching. Now, what happened is we released part of that emotional trigger, but we didn't go back far enough.
That's right.
Okay. So now what do? We go back and ask those same questions again. I want you to feel down into this tightness in your chest.
So, and I want you to go back and I want you to think, when did this come in? Was it in this lifetime or another lifetime? Or was it in vitro?
When you said this lifetime, I got a hit, but then you also said in previous lifetimes, I got a hit. I don't.
So we need to go. So we need to go back into a previous lifetime because
hold on. Something just came up. Right. It's going back to bullying. It's going back to bullying. It's going back to school and being bullied.
Okay, so what lifetime was this?
It's this lifetime.
But it's before the age of 3 or 4?
It's all around this age, same age. It's going back in the same age, the same time, and now something else. Something else has just come up.
So what you're saying is that you were being bullied a lot. Is that what you're saying?
I was being bullied may not be the right word, but I was being picked on. It felt bullying. And it felt like because I couldn't hear, I couldn't listen, it was all back down to I felt unheard and that I was not, yes.
Okay, very good.
So it's not only about bullying, it's about being unheard.
Right.
So I want to go back to that feeling because I feel the connection between your friend, that there was something that you weren't being heard. So you weren't being heard by him.
I wasn't being understood by a lot of
Yes.
You know, I want us to go back to that moment, Lisa. I want us to go back to that same moment where that little boy is picking on you and you're bringing yourself in.
Right.
And so whenever you go in, we've kind of released that part where you were being protected. So now I want you to get down on your knees and I want you to look little Lisa in the eye. And I want you to just envision saying to her, sweet baby, what words do you need to say right now? What do I need to hear from you, honey? Your thoughts are important to me. You are important. Your thoughts are important. And you have a place on this earth. And I want you to envision little Lisa looking you in the eyes. And finally, someone is going to listen to this little girl. What does this little girl have to say to you?
She literally wrapped her arms around my neck and said thank you and buried her head in my neck. And I'm not saying my mum wasn't there, because she was, but I felt like I felt like I was isolated in my world because I couldn't hear. And I didn't know what was going on because of my disability. And I didn't understand a lot of things. And it wasn't always everything felt about other people. It didn't feel about me.
Yes.
So I want you to, whenever you are now this little girl, envision her, she's laying on her head, you're rubbing her back, and you are just telling her how smart she is, that she is going to make a difference in this world, that her path may seem hard right now, but what she thinks sets her apart is what makes her so special and is going to change the vibration of this entire world when she honors it. And then we're just going to tell this little girl, we honor you. We honor your vibration. We honor your thoughts. And we're so happy you're here on your soul's path.
I knew you guys would get me.
And then I want you to visualize you're that 4-year-old girl again, and you are being heard and you can hear. So go back, and I want you to, it's a fantasy of you being a child playing with these other children, hearing and being heard and having a good time. Now go back to the original trigger, which is your friend, and tell us how you feel.
About what happened? I don't feel anything.
So are you saying you
That's
released
almost
it?
like.
Are you saying?
Yeah. No, seriously.
Are you saying you released it?
Yeah. I mean, I have.
All right. High five.
Zero.
What Lisa, that's that point of neutrality, which we are now getting people to, because it's in that neutrality that you can allow the data of the emotions at play around you to tell you information. Emotions are data. And when we're not in our emotions, so I want everyone to think about this. When you're triggered, your fight or flight amygdala goes on board, right?
Right.
When your amygdala goes on board, your prefrontal cortex goes off. That's where we process information. They can't both work at the same time. So now you're at the point where you're neutral. You see someone behaving badly in front of you, but you're working now from this front spot where you are not involved in it. You're being able to take on the data that's coming at you and making a well-grounded decision based in love for yourself and for the greater good of the situation as a whole.
And if this trigger ever comes up again for you, because it might, you could walk yourself through these steps that we just did. And many people think, oh, I tried it once, it didn't work for me. Sometimes you have to keep getting deeper and deeper into this, like into the feeling and where it initially came from so that you can release it. Because the first with the boy, that was just the surface.
Mm-hmm.
You had to go really deep to get to the heart of what had hurt you.
Yeah. And I realized at that time that there was a lot of not being heard. Like it was all about everybody else. And I think it was because I was in my own little world. I couldn't really hear what was going on. I didn't understand it because I was deaf. And I was deaf up until the age of 5. And I don't think not many people realize is that I had to lip read. And to that point, that because I had to lip read up until the age of 5, when I had an operation, then my school didn't want me to read or write. So they didn't want to teach me to read or write until I was 7 years old, which I pushed and I went through this and I said, no, I'm going to learn to read or write. And Christy, when you said that you are smart enough, that's always been a thing for me, a trigger, because I felt that this person in my house was trying to, in fact, there was times I was like, will you just dumb it down? And I felt like they were trying to overcome me because it felt like I wasn't smart enough or at that level. And so when you hit the fact that you're smart enough, I was like, yeah, you know what? I am. And I'm seeing right through you and I'm seeing the lies and I'm seeing the discrepancies and I'm seeing the stories. And all I'm doing is giving my heart and my openness to you. And yet you have completely taken advantage of my goodness and my good being. And it triggered me right back into that space. So yeah, it was, yeah. Thank you. I'm healed until I'm triggered. I love it. I love that.
Thank you.
No.
So when we go through this process with people, sometimes it takes 5 minutes. Sometimes it takes a half hour the first time till you get to the bottom of where the trigger is coming from.
Yes,
right.
for sure.
Wow. Amazing.
Well, thank you, Lisa. Thank you for being so open and honest right here on your podcast. I appreciate it.
You, my little girl.
You, Lisa.
I love that little girl.
I know. I love little Lisa. My friend Genevieve bought me that.
She's precious.
She is very, very precious. So obviously we've done this trick now. People can get this book from Amazon. It is a best-selling book on Amazon. It's only just been released, so that's quite an achievement that you've got best-selling status. So I'm very proud of you both.
Thank you. And you know, Lisa, it's because of you that we even met.
That's right.
That's what happens. You know, bring people together. It's crazy.
Yeah, you do. You really do. It's your superpower.
So tell me, can people have sessions with you? Tell me how that works. Tell me about, obviously, working with you.
Oh my gosh, there's so much. So awakeningyourpath.com is going to be the hub for it all. Awakeningyourpath.com. You can go there. You can book sessions with me or Iris. You can sign up for the process for free. If you're not sure about the book, you can sign up to get a chapter of the book for free. And once you get that first chapter, then you're going to be hooked. We're quite certain of it. We have a monthly subscription program you can join where you can be with like-minded people and meet with us on a regular basis.
And once a month, we are going to do a drawing and someone from our collective will be able to have a 10 or 15 minute process with one of us. So we'll go through I think it's like 20 minutes. We go through the process with you. And so people will be able to come to us with their questions and we'll help them through it.
That's amazing. That is something, it's worth its weight. Honestly, just what you did there completely knocked out that word that I didn't want to use, but it came through, and that word, and it was amazing. This book is true. It says you're not broken. You're just stuck in a group chat with your triggers and they've been running your life long enough. I love that. It is amazing. Thank you so much for being part of this. I urge everybody to find out all about you. Awakeningyourpath.com. Please go and have a look and get the book. it is worth it. The stories, you've got personal stories about both of you. And I think that was really nice that you actually shared that. As you can see, I've tagged it with a lot of other different things. But thank you so much for being part of this. And thank you for doing that process. It really,
Thank you, Lisa.
Yes.
Thank you for being brave enough to go through the process on your podcast, because, you know, a lot of, you really expose yourself to your audience. And
yes. You know, I always said many years ago, don't ask somebody to do something that you're not prepared to do yourself. And so I have always stood by that. So I encourage, if I'm afraid to do it, then there's a problem. So I was like, you know what? I want people to see how, you know, maybe vulnerable you have to be. And if you can be really vulnerable, then it's about allowing yourself to, put yourself out there and just knowing that it's safe. You know, I try to create a safe space in this environment. And for me, I think that's all it is. So if I can do it, guys, you can do it. So
thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much for having us. We so appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Lisa.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And thank you guys for listening to Hope, Healing and Transformation. Go and get your book of the Awakening Your Path right now, awakeningyourpath.com. And it's transformative. That really worked for me. Until next time, have fun and don't let your triggers rule your life. You can actually get through it.
Do you feel a whisper in the back of your mind, like the truth is waiting, but it's hard to find? Well, maybe there's magic in the words she brings. Close your eyes and listen in. Do you want to know everything? What your heart won't say, but your soul can sing. From love to loss and the space between, she's got the light to lift the unseen. Hope, healing and transformation. Do you want to know everything? Do you want to know everything?
Thank you so much for joining me today. And remember, the information shared on this podcast is meant to inspire and support you, but it's not a replacement for personalized advice from a qualified professional. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who might benefit. And don't forget to tune in next time. Until then, take care and keep believing in something better.